Worship music. I don't know if there's any single thing that has brought about uh, some of the worst trends in church than worship music. Um, you walk into a church, and it's generally, if not the first thing, one of the first things that they do. And it seems to me that for the most part, the whole purpose of it is to set the mood or to set the emotional tone for the service. Um, and it's pretty good at that for people who are kind of participating in it or kind of giving it that uh, power, I guess, for lack of a better word. Um, Personally, I attend church every Sunday and rarely participate actively in the worship. I stand when I'm supposed to stand and um, read the words on the screen. I don't really enjoy singing those songs very much, and I'll get into a little bit why. Um, but it just feels like it's such a tool for emotional manipulation, and I just don't know what value it adds. Um, the In my opinion, the first thing churches should be doing is trying to, in terms of a service. There are lots of things churches should be doing, and I don't even know if a Sunday service is the primary thing that a church should be doing. But since that is the primary thing churches are doing, and since that's where um, we're focusing right now, the service should be intended to um, direct our focus heavenward, upward, toward God, toward the Creator, and to recognize our lack of importance in the scheme of created order, and that we are only important insofar as we have a role to play in advancing the kingdom by sharing the gospel and living for Christ. And the truth is, that's what worship is anyway. So, one of the first parts of why worship music annoys me is that in a lot of churches, they will talk about the music as the worship, and the rest of the service will be the sermon, the announcements, the whatever, reading of scripture, the collection of offering. Um, but all of it is supposed to be worship, and not just the parts of the service, every part of our lives. And I think we really have uh, twisted our understanding as Christians of what it means to worship because we use worship to describe this one act of singing songs, standing up, putting our arms up in the air, and this is how we show that this God that created everything, that puts the breath in our lungs, that is the reason we exist, that um, puts the songs in the mouths of the birds for us to hear, and grows the plants and the trees for us to enjoy and to eat, and the whole world around us. What he deserves from us is emotionally manipulated, bad music sung loudly with our hands in the air, and that is it. That's what worship is. And I'm just here to say that's not what worship is. That is garbage for the most part. And if you listen to the lyrics of the worship songs, you'll hear a lot of focus on the individual, a lot of me's. I've done that before with my wife just to make a point, like sung back a song, and every time I hear an I or a me, just really emphasize it. And if you pay attention, it's pretty common. Most worship music is about the individual singing it and not about the creator that is supposedly directing them to be worshiping. Um, and so I just I don't think churches are being intentional enough about how they're using their time. I think the trend of, well, worship music is expected and this is what we do, and let's set up some time to be emotional and make this a very kind of feelings driven environment. And then we'll shift gears and somebody will talk at us for a while, and then maybe we'll sing again and leave on a high note, um, with some other form of, feelings based uh, entertainment, I guess. Um, so that is one of the things that I don't like about worship music. It's all about emotion. Another is that um, it's a bad representation of what worship really is. I should be worshiping, like, every part of my life should be an act of worship. The way I love my wife, the way I love my kids, the way I help my neighbor, the way I behave when no one is looking, the way I execute my tasks at work, excuse me, the way I deal with um, every situation in life. It's all an opportunity to worship God. Worship is about what is at the center of your life and what is the thing that defines how everything else happens. It's not about what are the songs that we sing that make us feel uh, the most, I don't know, butterflies inside or whatever description you want to give it. Um, and so it takes place not just on Sunday morning, it takes place all week long. And everybody's worshiping something. And if you're not worshiping Christ and you're not worshiping the God of the Bible and the creator of the universe, then you're probably worshiping something else. You probably have something else that sits on the throne in your life, whether that's wealth, money, um, fame, uh, sex, um, whatever thing you're using to fulfill yourself, whatever thing you're pursuing, whatever thing defines where most of your thought and energy and effort goes through the course of the day, where your resources are invested, and not just financial resources, but your mental and physical resources, emotional, spiritual resources. Where are those things going? Are they going towards um, honoring your creator? Are they going towards trying to live more like Christ, to live in line with the order of creation and with um, the structure that God has called you to live within? Or are they spent pursuing something else? And that is going to tell you what you worship. And it has nothing to do with the songs that you sing. Worship music, um, to me, is just a made up term that doesn't represent anything except um, what makes people feel good in church. Um, so the other reason that I'm not a big fan of worship music is that it really messes up what we consider worship. And then I'm going to talk about one final thing. I already mentioned the lyrics, um, and how some of them are just very individual focused, and I do think that's true. But there's a particular trend beyond just the focusing on self. And I'm going to use one song as an example. There are others. This is another reason why I don't like to sing in church, besides the fact that I don't really like to sing around other people in general, because I'm not a good singer, and I'd rather not be self-conscious of my singing um, if I'm supposed to be focusing on something else. But also, some of these words I just can't sing. Um, and I'm gonna use a different example than this, but I'm gonna throw this one out there also just to demonstrate that there are other examples. Is something like "Reckless Love" by Corey Asbury, which is just total nonsense, um, and it just doesn't represent God at all. And here's one that they've been doing. This one's on the top of my mind because they've been doing it at the church that I've been attending, um, and it's called "Simple Kingdom." I just Googled it. It looks like it was written by Brian and Katie Torwalt, if I'm saying that correctly, and Cody Carnes. I don't know who these people are, to be completely honest. I don't really care who these people are. Um, but the church that I attend decided this was a song that they wanted to sing. And I'm just going to focus on one verse. Um, and it says, "Your kingdom is backwards. It flows in reverse. What you call a treasure, this world calls a curse. The small become great. The last become first. Your kingdom is backward. Lord, teach us to serve." And I just want to say, that his kingdom is not backward. This is exactly the problem. This is exactly why this concept of worship music is so aggravating to me. And it's not just that we sing these songs and they're more about emotion than anything else, and that we call it worship when it's really just the smallest subset of what it really is to worship. All of those things are true, but we're also saying nonsense. We have whole congregations of people who believe in their heart that they are singing and uh, giving honor and praise to their God, and they are using descriptions of him that are completely incorrect, biblically, just way off base. And I'm not just talking about, well, some people believe this, theological position, and some people take this theological position. And so if you're singing, a song that is too, uh, you know, based on Calvinism or predestination, or too, Trinitarian for some people who aren't into that. Like, I'm not talking about theological differences in songs that kind of promote a particular position. I'm talking about just a basic misunderstanding of what Christianity is and who God is. And the reason this particular passage aggravates me so much, and I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. Your kingdom is backward, it flows in reverse. God's kingdom is not backward. God's kingdom is the only proper kingdom. Saying that it flows in reverse or that his is backward is saying that the kingdoms that we are used to are the right ones, and that is incorrect. So on its surface, I can see how it feels good, or it seems like a good sentiment, or hey, like, that's a really interesting way to look at it, because Sermon on the Mount says the last will be first, or the first will be last, and blessed are the humble, and blessed are the poor, and so everything's going to be flipped upside down. And like, yes, all of those things are true. I'm not pushing back against the Sermon on the Mount or saying that those statements are incorrect. They 100% are. But the point that Jesus is making is that the way we see the world is incorrect. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get us to see that God's kingdom doesn't work like the kingdoms that we know and understand, because it's the standard. It's not corrupted. It's not ruled by humans who are flawed and sinful and pursuing their own gain. It is ruled by a loving, gracious king who sacrificed himself for us. And we show him appreciation by saying that his kingdom is backward. Like, that's total nonsense. Not that I am interested in fixing this song, because even if the lyrics were perfect, the song still sucks. It's just bad, lame, terrible music, just basic, generic evangelical church garbage. But the even if I wanted to fix it, saying our kingdom is backward, it flows in reverse, and teach us to understand the right thing, like that, I could be on board with. Again, song still sucks, but I can at least acknowledge that you're attempting to, beyond just make something sound nice, you're actually attempting to make it biblically sound. But there's not even an attempt to do that. I mean, clearly the goal is just to make it sound a certain way, to get people to appreciate the cleverness of recognizing, hey, his kingdom, it goes the other direction. Isn't that cool? Like, no, it's not cool. That's not the point. It's not accurate to describe his kingdom in that manner. It is accurate to say his kingdom is the only kingdom that is set up correctly. It is the only proper hierarchy. And we can only understand him and appropriately worship him and appropriately follow and live for him if we understand what the correct version of a hierarchy looks like. Who belongs at the top? Not the strongest, not the smartest, not the most powerful, not the richest. It's the one who loves and sacrifices for the people. That's what it represents. And when we say it's backward, what are we saying? Are we saying that the way we see things, our inverted, perverted, corrupt human understanding is the right one, and therefore his is backward? Um, and it bothers me not only that this is what the whole congregation of people is singing with their most, heartfelt emotions, but that nobody else seems to be uncomfortable with it. Nobody else sits there and goes, "Wait a second, what? Like, are we really supposed to say that his kingdom is backward? Like, do we understand how prideful and irresponsible that is? Is that really like are these people going home and teaching their kids this? Is this what we want uh, the outside world to see about Christianity? That we actually think their kingdoms are just as valid as any other, but we worship a God whose kingdom is backward? Like, no, no, we want the world to see that their kingdoms are all backward, that they're understanding, not them, us, we. Oh, I'm part of the world. I am corrupt. I am prone to sin, and I am prone to build my hierarchies incorrectly as well, and I am prone to try to climb the hierarchy for my own sake, um, rather than to humble myself and be a servant leader like Christ. So I just can't get behind the whole thing. Um, I'm going to stop ranting about it now because there's nothing more to say, but we got to we got to do something here. We got to start taking this seriously. We got to understand that this is not what worship is meant to be. This is not what worship looks like. Worship in your heart day to day from sunrise to sunset. And when you fail to do that, repent and recognize um, that there is a created order, there is a hierarchy. God sits at the top of it, and we owe it to him and him alone to form our entire worldview around what he says the right thing to do is, not the other way around.